On my palette, I'm going to use a little matte medium that is in this jar. You can use a glaze if you like. You can use basically whatever it is you like to finish your painting with, but I'm going to give it just a little bit of visual interest with using this. This is an optional step. If you like it, do it. If you don't, don't. I'm going to be working with my flat brush. This is a clean flat brush. Very little bit of water on my brush. I'm not putting any additional water on my palette or my painting. I'm going to work with it just 100%. Picking some of this up. The spoon I just used to dip it out, don't need that. Picking some of this up on my flat brush, making sure it's nice and smooth. Sometimes when I just open that jar and it's just a little lumpy. So you have to mix up your mediums really well before you use them. Shake them up, mix them up. Some on my brush. I'm just going to start to make sure everything, there's no little brush hairs or anything on my canvas. And I'm going to start just with a back and forth type of brush stroke. And this is going to dry clear. Now, why am I doing this versus using a glaze or just a varnish? Those two things dry flat and do not retain brush strokes, generally. So I'm going to add just a little bit of a luminosity with this layer. Now you could add a gloss if you like. Since this is a watercolor type painting, and watercolors usually are not glossy, I'm just going to stick with that. But this is going to add a matte dried finish as well as just a little bit of visual interest. Again, we're using visual interest on this to show just a few brush strokes. Back and forth, covering your entire canvas, going around your edges very carefully, making sure they were all reached. Varying your stroke back and forth, up and down, so it looks very pretty when you stand back in the light and you can see all your different strokes. If you have any areas that need to be swept over, you can do that if you're working quickly with this medium. So I'm going to pick this up and take a look and make sure all my edges are reached. And I don't know if you can see that on camera, but there are several brush strokes happening in there. Once we dry it, you'll be able to see that a little bit more. This isn't going to give me a heavy texture or anything like that. It's just going to give me just a little difference on the surface versus a flat sheen like I like to use with my glazes. So again, this is an optional step. You could just glaze it or varnish it where we were before. I like to add this. We're going to finish off the sides as soon as this dries a little bit. Always do your surface texture, whether it's a glaze or something like this, and then do your sides versus doing your sides first. I talk about this in my sides tutorial in the technique section. Because if your sides aren't quite dry, and maybe I did these in white, and then I come back in an hour to do my final coat, and I start here on the edge and I pick up a little of that white paint, it will swipe across my painting, or black, or whatever you've used for your side color. So you want to be sure to do the top coat first, which is generally going to be clear, and then your sides, because it doesn't matter if you get a little of that clear on your sides. Okay, so we'll come back and we'll finish the sides and then we will be done.